Here we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Suzanne Grossman. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Director of Career Services and Alumni Relations at the Marxe School. I'll let my colleague Samantha introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all. My name is Samantha Bruno. I am the Assistant Director of Graduate Career Services here at the Marxe School. We're very excited for you to be all here with us today with several successful Marxe alumni who are going to tell you about the Presidential Management Fellows Program.
So we currently have 4 speakers who are graduates of the Marxe School who are PMF fellows or graduates of the program, or we have 1 finalist looking for a placement, and you'll hear from all of them. We'll hopefully get to a breakout room later so you can have a small group discussion with 1 person. So that's how today is going to go. We will also break up this session into sort of 2 parts, which is talking about the PMF experience, what the fellowship itself is like, where our alumni are working, and what the being a PMF means. And then we'll save talking about the actual application and the process for the second part of our discussion. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, raise your hand, that kind of thing, and we'll aim to get to all of your questions. So I'm trying to think, I think that's everything. And Sam and I will be putting in the chat also some links for you to look at, because there's a lot of information on the PMF website that may come up as we go. I will say that the application is now open until September 25th. And if you're a current student, there's 1 piece of information especially you need from us as far as your transcript, but we'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about the process. So I'm going to, so our speakers are Mark Boyd, Megan Gavin, Francesca Logalbo, and Elora Tassi. Those are the 4 with us today. Eric Markovich could not be here, but he has offered his email address so anyone can reach out to him. And then we're waiting for 1 more alum. But I'm going to start with, I'll start with Elora. So you can tell us your a little bit about your PMF experience, where you placed, anything you want to share with us about the experience itself.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. So I am now a PMF alum. I converted this past May, and I am placed at the Department of Labor in the Employee Benefits Security Administration. That is the agency of the Department of Labor that regulates employee benefits. So primarily retirement benefits and employer-sponsored health insurance. And I work on the health insurance side. And so I really, really enjoy this job. It was a career change for me. I had worked for almost 10 years in nonprofit communications before I applied to the PMF program and ultimately got this job. And my experience has been really incredibly positive with the PMF program. I've met really great people. I have developed a whole new skill set. My PMF rotation, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit, but all PMFs are required to do a 4 to 6 month rotation in another agency or another role. I did mine in my agency's assistant secretary's office, which gave me kind of a whole new level of exposure to just a different way of operating within the Department of Labor. I got to brief the Secretary of Labor at one point, which was really exciting. So it's just been a really, really positive experience. And the last thing I'll say is that I actually applied to the program twice. The first year I was eligible, I applied and did not get in, and then I applied again and did. So I just say that as encouragement to anybody who may have applied in the past or, may apply and not get it the first time. Definitely, don't be discouraged. It certainly is possible to apply a second time and get in.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to Mark now.
Hey everyone, my name is Mark Boyd. I was a 2019 PMF, I think. I took the assessment in 2018, started my job in 2019. I work at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So I work in the Office of Field Policy and Management. And basically what we do is operate HUD's 64 field and regional offices around the country. So I work at one of those field offices. I'm in Providence, Rhode Island, but on the org chart, my job is in Washington. So I go back and forth a little bit. I have mostly been for most of my federal career. So actually, I think like maybe today is my 4-year federal anniversary, somewhere around now-ish. And I have spent most of that time in communications roles. So I have worked in with HUD's Office of Public Affairs, and also my current division doing public affairs and communications work. So working with media and sort of managing our field congressional and intergovernmental affairs operation. So basically like HUD, external facing HUD comms. For the last year-ish, I've been in more of like a chief of staff position. So I right now report to a super senior guy, a senior executive, which is like the level above the GS system. It's like a general officer equivalent in the military. And he is our HUD's director of stakeholder engagement and data analytics. And he's got 4 teams that report under him. So I help him manage these 4 teams. I will attempt to name them for my own edification: stakeholder relations, customer experience, disaster management, data analytics. Nailed it. Yeah, I have, the PMF program has been huge for me. It's been, it was the perfect thing that came along at the perfect time for me. It was a great way to start my federal career. And I absolutely feel like my experience at Marxe enabled me to succeed immediately in my federal career. And it's been a great ride so far, and I have no intention of leaving. So glad to be here today and look forward to getting into this discussion. And it's great to see you, Francesca, Megan, Alora. Glad you guys are doing well.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Megan next. Megan Gavin.
Hey there. Thanks so much, Suzanne. And it is so great to see everyone here and nice to see so many people joining the talk. I'm Megan Gavin. I'm now also, like Laura, recently converted out of my fellowship. So I'm a PMF alum. I work at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I'm going to try not to speak in acronyms today, but it only took 2 years, and now I only speak in USDA, PMF, SEBGP, and so forth. So forgive me if I need to stop and remember to say it out. So I work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture Marketing Service. My area supports grants to states that help support the cultivation and markets for fruits, nuts, vegetables, and horticulture and nursery crops like Christmas trees. I work permanently remote from New York City, so I've spent my entire fellowship, rotation, and now my position, it will be remote like all of my colleagues. About 50 people within the grant division who work across the country, including Hawaii, and we all meet online and conduct all of our work remotely. But there are many people in Washington, D.C., so I'm happy to talk about remote positions as we go further along in the talk.
Great. And then Francesca, you're in a unique position. Why don't you tell me where you are as far as the PMF? Tell everyone where you are as far as the PMF program.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Francesca Legabo. I am a current PMF finalist. I completed my MPA in December of 2022. I currently work as a project manager at David's Werner Gallery in Chelsea. I work in video production while I am going through the process of applying for positions within the PMF program, and I'm waiting for placement. I have wanted to work in the federal government really since I enrolled in the MPA program at Baruch. My brother works at the Department of Justice as an AUSA. He loves his job. He finds it really rewarding. I don't want to become a lawyer, so I enrolled in this program to learn more about public service. And I've had my eye on this program for really the entire time that I was a student at Baruch, and to just have become a finalist was so incredibly rewarding. So I have, I believe, until February to place. So I'm just going through the motions every day. I check the PMF TMS opportunity blast that we get. I go through the jobs and I'm just applying as I go. So happy to speak about the application process as well as the semi-finalist interview round, which I think I was the first class to have done that, and just kind of speak more freely about what that process was like. And if I could do it again, I would tweak a few things with the prep. So I'm looking forward to chatting with everybody here.
Great. And yeah, I'll say that when I first started at Baruch, which is now 10 years ago, there was a semifinalist round, but it was everyone had to go to Washington, D.C. and do these in-person interviews. And then they got rid of that process, which in some ways made it easier. But now that it's back, at least it's virtual. Yes, you can confirm. Yeah, so it's a virtual semifinalist process. And there was another Baruch student, graduate, who became a finalist as well, who I think is also searching for a placement. So just something to know about the process for everybody, and Francesca can tell more about that. Why don't we talk about a little bit more about what it means to be a PMF versus what it means, what it looks like if you're, just hired regular, get a job in the federal government. What is it? What does the program give you, whether it's benefits, professional development? In terms of, for those of you who are already in your placements, and I know some of you have finished the program and it sounds like there's a whole conversion process. So whatever you think would be helpful to share. Anyone could take that one.
I can start. I think Megan and Alora can jump in if anything has changed in the last couple of years. But basically, for me, the most valuable thing, well, two things. One, you have PMF programs 2 years long. I think that both years you have a 80-hour training requirement, so 160 hours for the two. So that's 2 full working weeks that you need to spend a year doing professional development, whether that's training in your job or like the PMF program office in Washington offers like a leadership development course that can be part of that. But the great thing about it, I mean, a lot of jobs offer professional development opportunities, but it's like such an essential part of the PMF program. You have to do it. Your supervisor knows you have to do it, so you shouldn't have any trouble like taking time away from your day-to-day work to complete the training and development opportunities you have to do. And my experience with the PMF program has been, and this is what people told me when I was starting out, and it's been continued to be true throughout my career so far. All of the most impressive, amazing, successful people that I work with are former PMFs. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And it's something that continues to benefit you throughout your career. The career ladder that comes with the program. So if you're at all familiar with the GS system, there are 15 ranks within it. The PMF program, you start out at a GS9. Actually, if you have like a JD or I think a PhD, you can start out at GS11. But you're basically coming in at middle management level. You're starting out as a low level senior person, and then after a year you get automatic promotion, and after 2 years you get another promotion. At HUD, we actually ladder our PMFs to 13. So all of the PMFs that we bring on have 3 baked in promotions. We're developing them along the way and sort of like planning where to put them so that they'll have the biggest impact and have the greatest opportunity to like grow as a federal servant. So I think that's the number one selling point about the program, is that not only are you offered opportunities to grow and develop, but like a lot of people around you and your leadership chain, your coworkers are like, and the agency collectively are like investing in you. And they really, they do a lot to make you feel supported and feel like you have all the tools you need to like grow and learn. It's scary to come off the street and, like Megan was saying, like learn a whole new language, or, you know, learn a whole new like field that you didn't have any awareness of, or maybe, you know, you've been interested in something and you think maybe I'll get this kind of job, but then you end up in this kind of job. It's, you get tons of support from day one, and that doesn't let up even after you finish the program. Like, there's people you meet in the program will continue to be a valuable network and mentors for you along the way. So it really just continues to pay dividends throughout your career. And I'm sure, hopefully, that's also been Alora and Megan's experiences so far.
Yeah, that's definitely been my experience as well. I would echo everything Mark said. And the other thing I would add is that, you know, I had applied to many federal jobs since I graduated from undergrad, which was in 2013, and never got an interview, never heard back from any of them. And then once I got accepted into the PMF program, I had, you know, multiple interviews, multiple job offers. So, you know, that's not to say that you can't, you know, come into the government another way. You of course can, but the PMF program really gives you a leg up and gives you access to kind of a curated set of job openings just for PMFs that pretty much guarantees you will end up working in the federal government.
Yeah, I'd add on to that as well. I'd echo everything that Mark and Laura said, that the distinction between federal service from another path versus the PMF program, which is a pathways program, is that those rails are really greased for your success, that there's a great deal of investment put into you. There are not only expectations that you continue to learn in the program, but you're given virtually every resource needed to gain the skills that you might not have entering into the position, and then use those to slingshot even further up the chain if that is what you desire. So it's a really great supportive program for your professional development and your entire professional trajectory. So that's been a really huge plus, and so very different from my experiences working in nonprofits in New York, where most of what most of your development was placed on your shoulders, both time and financially, for your personal investment. It's been a really refreshing change.
Great. And Francesca, I know you always had an interest in federal, but anything else that motivated you to apply, or anything else about the program that stood out to you?
I think I've joined every one of these sessions since I was a grad student. So kind of hearing everybody's responses about the mentorship possibilities also really sort of was like a no-brainer for me, because I think even just I've worked in art nonprofits for probably about 7-8 years, and now I'm working in the private sector in the arts. But mentorship is it's a little exclusive in this field. It just is. It's very much a who you know and who you've had lunch with or who you sat next to and all that. And I could go on for ages about that, but I won't. And I kind of like that it's kind of, there's almost like a little bit of an incubator, and kind of like we're taking you on and we're going to like mold you and shape you into like the best possible, you know, like employee for the government that you possibly can be. So I that really resonated with me, because I think sometimes when you're working in other fields, you sometimes just feel like, I don't know if I'm quite on track, like I'm doing well in my job, but I kind of don't know where I'm going. And then suddenly you've been in a place for a couple of years and you're just kind of like, I want to grow more, and it just gets harder. So I like that there was the ability to do more career development and mentorship, while also just playing a role in the government at the same time. So that's why going to these sessions is so helpful. So even now I'm seeing it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great.
Great. Was there anything for those of you already working as a PMF or in federal government, anything you want to debunk about what federal government is like, or something that surprised you or was different than what you thought? Any thoughts there?
For me, I think one thing that I was sort of worried about, didn't know how it would go, was I didn't know if I would be treated like an intern as a PMF, since it is a pathways program. There are sort of other pathways programs where people do come in as interns. But that was very much not the case. I, from day one was doing the same job as, other people hired with my title in my agency. And it was, I had the same responsibilities, I had the same training. So it's very much not, an intern type thing. You are, or, I can only speak to my own experience in my agency, but in my agency, it's really, you are very much, an equal contributor as people who are already working or who have been hired through other pathways.
I'd echo what Elora said, that immediately I was thrown into a position where I was treated exactly as if I had been in the position for years and was on par with my colleagues. I'd add as well that I've been surprised about the amount of churn in government, at least in the areas that I'm in. I had an impression for some reason that positions were rather static and that people held on to their spots, and that if things were fairly, I don't know, kind of stable from in terms of position availabilities. In my time, it's been 2 years. Half of my division has been promoted out into higher pay grades. They've moved into other divisions that are being formed. They're learning new skills. Many have taken on supervisory opportunities. There's a great deal of opportunity once you're in the door. It's getting in the door that's the harder part.
Yeah, I agree on all fronts. I'm glad to hear, Alora, that you weren't treated like an intern. That I wasn't either. That wasn't my experience, but I know that it's different agency to agency. There's the way that the way that each agency administers the program is like there's a lot of variability, and I've definitely like met PMFs who felt that were like, they started at some agency and like it kind of took them a while to feel like they were part of the team, or maybe like their supervisor just wasn't familiar with the program, so didn't understand that they like had a master's degree and had completed this like rigorous onboarding and like admissions process. I'm not sure I had much of a conception of the federal workforce before I entered government. But it has been, I guess, similar to what Megan said. It's been a lot more. I'm not sure what I was imagining, but my experience has been very dynamic. It has not been. I mean, sort of. I don't think anyone on this call would feel this way, but I know that there's a general feeling out there in the world sometimes that people, the government is sort of people dying on the vine and like collecting a paycheck and maybe not working very hard. I work really hard. I work really hard, and everyone that I work with works really hard. And that has been one of my favorite parts about working in government is not the fact that I get worn out sometimes, but that I am surrounded by really dedicated public servants, and I sort of see every day like why people are called to this kind of work. I sort of like really almost every day I have an experience that makes me think like, wow, I'm so glad there's so many people who want to work in the government and want to work in the public sector. And I know obviously the Marxe School attracts people who envision that kind of a career for themselves. But it's a lot more. I honestly think I'm more idealistic now, 4 years into my federal career, than I was when I started, and I'm not sure how many career fields you can really say that about.
Awesome. That's all really inspiring. I think there's probably some questions about the process. I know there's someone wanted to know more in the chat for your advice. So let's talk about the process. It's open now on USA Jobs. So yeah, I guess we can start with just a broad question around what advice do you have around the process itself and application? So who wants to start with that?
I can start with at least the first part is like taking an exam. I'm sure there's like a formal name for it, but it's like an exam, and it's that was the part that was the most stressful to me. I am not a good test taker. There's test anxiety. There's like I was a good student grade wise, but then it was like a totally different person would sit and take an exam. So I found I had heard from previous, probably my three, everybody else here would agree that I was told like to not overthink it. Just if your response felt right, just like kind of go with it. There was some sort of situational questions, like hypothetical, like you, an employee, are meeting another employee who tells you that something else, they've been privy to another conversation that wasn't so great. What would you do in this situation? Like, just if it feels right and if it sounds right, that's the best thing to do. Don't overthink it. Get a good night's sleep. I took the exam in the midst of a capstone semester and another course. So I blocked out several hours on a Saturday morning after getting a good night's sleep and didn't talk to anybody, made it very clear, like, do not disturb, nothing, and just focused on that for a few hours and was able to get it done. And it felt totally fine. So my advice is don't overthink the questions and your responses and just get a really good night's sleep. And don't do it after you have to submit a draft for your capstone. That's another piece of advice I would give. So.
Others on the, did others here have a strategy about how you were approaching that assessment piece or other parts of the application, which is really, in some ways, I tell people just to apply for PMF because I think that the application is not as maybe hard in the sense that you don't need letters of recommendation. I don't remember even like there's not like a personal statement that you're writing that's a long personal statement or anything. There might be a brief, they've kind of gone back and forth with the writing piece, but yeah, so like how did you approach it, the application?
So for me, like I said, I applied twice. The first time I had no strategy. I was just like kind of winged it. Which I would not recommend. That's probably why I didn't get it. I didn't go into it sort of understanding what the test was going to be. And so I would say, if you do have the opportunity, and if you're not sure if you're quite ready, you can apply twice. And so I think, taking it the first time really helped me sort of know what to expect. And then I think Francesca's advice is spot on. Like, take it seriously, get a good night's sleep, eat, drink water, all that kind of stuff. It really does make a difference. And I think the not overthinking advice that Francesca gave is also just really spot on. The first time I took the test, I was thinking, what do they want me to say? What do they want the answer to be? And the second time I really just went with my gut. And so I think, you all have the same education that the four of us got. So you are well prepared. So really just follow your gut, and go into it, with confidence.
Megan or Mark, any thoughts on the process?
I'm hesitant to weigh in because they've changed it every year. Like they've changed it like 4 or 5 times since I took it, but definitely like, just like any big test or, everything that Laura and Francesca have said, like just take care of yourself. And I honestly wish there was a little bit more transparency. They change it almost every year. Sometimes substantially and sometimes like kind of on the margin. And I know that that OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, who operates the program, they try and they try to make it better, and they try to make it like more equitable, and like sort of change like, oh, we're getting too much of like this kind of like, they try to make it so that it's not just the same schools that are, Columbia gets like 30 sometimes, and I've been involved with OPM, working on some of these working groups, trying to like figure out how to change the program. I think they're getting there. I wish there was there's great information available this year. I know they put out like PMF handbook every year, so hopefully that sheds some light. But really, like whatever version of it you get, if you take it next year, it might be different. Just have confidence and know that, like Laura said, you have all of the tools, and you are absolutely qualified for this program. It's just a matter of like sort of how the cookie crumbles that year. But if you don't succeed, definitely try again next year. And also, I think this is still the case. Like when I took mine, it was September of 2018. I wasn't graduating until August of 2019, but I still qualified because like I know Suzanne's going to talk about this, but there's always like I wasn't going to finish in May. I knew that I was going to finish with summer classes, and I knew that I was still going to be qualified. So you have 2 years after you get your degree, but you also, if you're within like sort of spitting distance of finishing, I still encourage you to take it, even if you might be finishing up like in the summer.
I'll just add one small thing because everything that has been said so far is absolutely true and good. That Mark spoke a little bit about OPM, which is an office that administers this program. It's under the president's office, works very hard to make things equitable. We talk a lot in government about things being not just equal, but equitable. So everything that you need to be prepared for that application, which is also the test, is available on the PMF Apply website. So I would suggest don't wait until the last minute, don't wait until the last day to prepare for your application. Do go through the website, take it in small bits if you need to between your capstone, and just become familiar with the resources, the points and the metrics that they'll be using to assess you, so that it can help inform how you respond to the exam.
Great. Yeah, as far as what Mark was saying, for those of you who didn't graduate yet, you could graduate anytime this coming year, all the way up until I think summer 2024. So if you're finishing in this December, this May, and this summer, you are eligible now. But the key is that you need a letter from us, and we've streamlined this process so that academic advising at Baruch will generate the letter, at Marxe will generate the letter for you to attach to your application. So because our transcripts do not include a expected graduation date. So I put in the chat a Google Doc. Some of you have already filled this out, and you should be getting your letter soon. Actually, they're going out today, some of them. But if you are planning to apply and you're still a student, please fill out that form, because it just helps us track who needs a letter. Everybody else, if you already graduated, you should be fine in that your transcript will state your date of graduation. This is one of the things that could get you quickly disqualified, though, if you're a student. So they're gonna eliminate you if it's not clear when you graduated. There was a question about using a federal resume. So PMF is very clear that you don't have to use a federal resume. Most of the students that we've worked with or applicants don't use one for this purpose. But but I know Laura, you said you didn't use one. I don't know if the others, if you did or not, but I think that you probably didn't, would be my guess. But you could put in the chat if you did. Francesca, why don't you tell us about what the semifinalist round was like?
Yeah, sure. So I took the first assessment probably around this time. And then I was notified that I was a semifinalist, I want to say in late November, early December. And I had to then schedule my interview, and I think they conducted the interview over the course of like maybe for all the semifinals, maybe over the course of 8 weeks, because I think I had until like early January or like maybe mid-January to pick a slot. So I interviewed, I want to say right before the Christmas holiday. Again, I wanted to get my capstone in and I had to do my housing policy paper. So just wanted to find the time to just get ready for it. Just full disclosure, in hindsight, I should have prepped more for this one. So if I could do it all again, I would have just prepped more. And I'm actually using kind of the semifinalist interview as like a case study that for when I interview, this is how I'm going to prepare, because I'm sure it's very, very similar. So it was like a phone interview with two, I think two people from OPM, I would assume, or the PMF office. The interview was a total of about like 25, 30 minutes. It's a very different structure than any other interview I've ever experienced. And I'm usually very comfortable with job interviews. I just am kind of comfortable in that space. And I believe the PMF site has a lot of information about this at this stage, but I'm happy just to kind of give my own personal experience. You had to remain anonymous the entire time. You could not disclose your name. The two other individuals on the phone never disclosed their name. So just know that. You really could not, they strongly recommended to avoid the use of the words we. They wanted very specific, I did this, I contributed in this way. Overall, it was relatively smooth. They were very clear on what they wanted from me after each question. They would repeat prompts several times, and they would give you plenty of time if you needed it to kind of like plan a response. I was given 4 questions. They were all around the various competencies. I believe one of mine was like attention to detail, another about flexibility. And then the other 2 questions were like hypothetical situations, like you recently had joined a team, you found out that you have to work on a project on a topic that you weren't familiar with, and you also found out that you weren't going to have any colleagues available to help you, and you couldn't come back and ask for more money. How would you respond in this situation? So in hindsight, what I should have done is really go through all of the competencies, which they're on the PMF website, I believe, and just kind of really pick apart what each of those mean. And I think anybody here on this call can navigate this process. Just really think about situations in your own job where you have proven to be flexible, where you have proven to pay close attention to detail, and be very, very specific, like what was the project about? How did you contribute to it? What were very specific things that you did in that moment? And just have a couple of scenarios ready for that response. I kind of knew what they meant by attention to detail and, things like flexibility, but I didn't have the situations like at the ready. And it was already kind of like a different interview experience for me where I couldn't, there wasn't a lot of discussion about there wasn't really any small talk, which they don't want to have, because I think they're trying to make the process as equitable as possible. So you're kind of also just in a different situation. You're not in a room with people where you're getting a sense of like who they are and just getting comfortable. It's a different experience, at least something that I've never experienced before. So, if you get to the semifinalist round, I just recommend take the time to just really reflect on what you've done professionally, or even at Baruch. We've done group projects, there's those are work situations to reflect on as well. And I think, Suzanne, I've given you my notes on this process before, so I think you have them handy if there are any semifinalists this year, and feel free to share those again. So yeah, I mean, just a kind of a different experience for me, and now I kind of just know going forward that is probably how I would prep for interviews. So
that's super, super helpful. And obviously you did a great job because you were selected.
Yeah.
As a finalist, even if you felt like you needed to prep more.
Yeah. I mean, I came out of it and I was like, I really don't know how that went. Again, because you don't get any response. They just say like, okay, question 2. So there's no, it's hard to read the room because you're really not in a room to read. So it was a little just off-putting for me, but now I know.
Great, that's helpful for future applicants. I think at this point, we're just gonna do a really quick breakout room, like 6 minutes, and then we'll allow you to pick the room. Sam, do you want to explain how that'll work? And then we'll come back to the main room.
So I'll open up the rooms.
Okay, we're just getting back from the breakout rooms. And we're gonna wrap up as soon as everyone is back with us. A few seconds to join. But hopefully you got to ask your questions. So welcome back to those returning. Is that everybody?
Looks like it.
Okay. So great. So we're just gonna do some parting words from our guests. Anything that came up in the group that might be helpful for everyone to hear, or just your last words of wisdom to future applicants for PMF. Start with Mark.
Everyone. We talked about this just briefly at the end of our breakout session, but my sort of a parting call to action is that the federal government needs you all. If working in government is something you want to do, apply to the PMF program. If it doesn't work, apply again. Apply as many times as you can. And if that doesn't work, apply to other federal jobs, because we need you. We need talented, passionate, young, medium career, later career people. We need everybody. So if you want to work in government, keep at it and it'll happen, and we'll be glad to have you.
Thank you. Megan?
Yeah, thanks to Mark for that message. Absolutely true. And I heard it the first time I heard Mark speak about this program. So thanks again for repeating it. I would add that you have received and are receiving through the Baruch program everything you need to succeed in public service, whether it is through the PMF program, should you apply and be received into it, or in federal government for any position, or in any public service position. I wasn't sure at the time that I was going through the program. I am absolutely certain now, with 2 years in, that we are getting everything we need. So don't hold back. Go for it all, and be a part of it. You are the future. So thanks.
Thanks so much. Laura?
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't have too much more to add. I think, it really is true. We really do need new perspectives. And the perspective that you can bring as a Marx graduate really is invaluable. Don't be intimidated by the Georgetowns and the Harvards. We're all in the same place, and you really do bring a perspective that's very much needed in the federal government. The other thing I would say is just keep an open mind. There are so many jobs in the federal government. There's so many different things you can do. And so, as long as you are smart and curious and committed, which all of you are, there is absolutely a place for you, and you will end up finding something that you didn't even know you might fall in love with.
Excellent. And last but not least, Francesca?
Megan, Mark, and Alora, that was great to hear as somebody who's still actively applying as a finalist. So thank you. And I just think from the breakout room that I was in, I just kind of continue to emphasize, just lean into it. You're totally ready. Go for it. And best of luck.
Great. So everyone here, please join me in thanking our Marxe alumni who took the time to be here today. We really appreciate it. I love doing this event every year. Every year we've had, in the recent years, we have had finalists. It's pretty exciting. So we just need people to apply. Just do it. And then, we'll see. And for anyone who needs help with parts of the application, especially if you need to polish your resume before you upload it to the PMF platform, definitely reach out to me and Samantha. We can do that over email if it's easier for you, or quickly set up some time to meet. So we want to help see everybody here succeed. I will send a follow-up email with this recording, and also the recording of the other current finalists who are, or fellows who are who couldn't be here today, and you could reach out to them as well. And also the speakers here today. Hopefully, I think you're all okay with sharing your contact information. I think for the most, yeah. So we'll do that. So thanks again, everybody. Be well and have a great rest of your day, and good luck with the application process for those who plan to apply this cycle. Bye, everyone. Take care.